Hey guys, this is Duke from Gas Mask Bunker, and I'd like to apologize for the hiatus that's been going on this channel lately. I've been very busy with my life, and I've been moving a lot of the collection into a storage unit in preparation for a big move. And in fact, the collection in my room right now is about half or even less of what it used to be when the channel was active, but nevertheless, I feel like things have calmed down enough to start making reviews for a decent period, so let's get right into it. As the title would suggest, I have here a very interesting rendition of the M5 Army Combat Service Mask because this variant has been modified, or rather this is a recreation of a mask that's been modified for use at the Hanford Plutonium Finishing Plant. Now, I don't know too much history about the Hanford plant itself, but I can tell you that for a decent period between the late 1940s and into the 1960s, a lot of the staff and workers there would have utilized M5 11-7 Army Combat Service masks that were leftover surplus from the Second World War. Now, this particular example is based off of one example that we see in a few photographs and a bit of footage that I will link down in the description, where the standard facepiece has been modified with a set of glass eyepieces with clamp metal frame type eyepieces, which have been borrowed off of a Wilson style or Wilson or Davis style industrial mask. And obviously most of the Hanford M5s would have used a M14 aerosol canister, which is pretty much just a giant particulate canister, and the reasons for which would be that the mask would only be used against radioactive dust and would have no CBRN protection. The reason for this thread on the external, I'm not entirely sure. They might have been doing some stuff where they were testing the amount of radioactive dust absorbed by the canisters and checking for leakage, things of that nature. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't studied the M14 series canisters, or M14 series, it's just one canister. But nevertheless, it's a very interesting canister, and Hanford used these extensively all the way into the 1980s. And in fact, this example that I have on this replication here, as you can see, we passed the date of inspection. The date of inspection passing test was on July of 1971, and the inspector was apparently number one. And this one is assigned to the Union Carbide Corporation at the K25 plant in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Obviously, that's not Hanford, but this is M14 canisters are rare enough as they are, so you'll have to bear with me for the inaccuracy. Another inaccuracy about this replication includes the head harness. In the few photographs we have of this mask, we see it with the original C4 style head harness with the gray webbing. However, in my time trying to get this mask restored back to its original military configuration, I just could not find a suitable replacement or materials to replicate a C4 harness. So when I was interested in buying a mask which I'll probably do a review on pretty shortly on this channel, but I'm not going to reveal a surprise, Moulage came to me and said, hey, if you give me your M5 and you convert it into a Hanford M5, I will buy you this mask. And that is precisely what I did. I just did a conversion, a modification on trade for that mask. But enough about that. The head harness is obviously stolen off of an M9 in lieu of the World War II gray webbing, which would have been originally present on it. The head harness itself is actually interesting because it came off of one of the Corpse M9s that some of you may know about, where there was a huge lot of just trashed, utterly garbage M9s that probably came from a very similar nuclear processing plant. And this one particular example that I stole the hardware off of had this weird head harness here. And as you can see, it's very crudely made. This is more than likely a handmade replacement in the actual facility for replacing the head harness, obviously. And I felt like this had a lot of character to it, and it was a lot better condition than all of the other head harnesses that came from that lot. So I decided to slap it on this just to give it a little extra taste and flavor to it. But as you can see, it's pretty basic and as far as construction goes. It's made out of a vinyl oilcloth material on the back head pad there, and then there's 1-inch elastic which doesn't quite fit through the action elastic buckles that are standard on most US masks, but it works well enough for the person that made it, obviously. There's not really much else to say about this mask in particular. In fact, I don't really know how many of these were made or how long they were used. I do know that the M5 11.7 combat service mask really stopped seeing service at Hanford sometime within the 1960s, but I don't know how many of these modified examples there were. I'd be willing to wager that there was only about one made as a sort of interim repair because they were, as you can see by this harness, they were constantly slapping on their own sourced components. Whatever they could source, they would attach it to the mask within the facility. But I digress. We don't know how many of these were made, but I felt like I wanted to reproduce one, and so I did. So that's about it for this review. If you have any comments, questions, corrections, or concerns, drop them down in the comment section below. I am Duke, and I will see you all later.